To hell with the date on your birth certificate. Let's talk about what we have in common across generations. Life, sex, and tech at any age. Welcome to Age Blind with Nancy A. Shenker.
Hey everybody, it's Nancy Shenker of Age Blind here with another great episode. And because it's February, the month of love and Valentine's Day and the age of Aquarius, this month we're going to be talking about things related to love, hate, relationships, lust, and a whole lot of sex stuff, which is actually the name of this episode. And just to set the mood for the episode, sex has been kind of a taboo topic since the time I was a little kid, but it's becoming much less so, although we still have a lot of puritanical views around love and lust and sex. So I got a pop-up in my feed, and I have to read this verbatim because it's so apropos, and then we will jump into introducing our guest today, who is fantastic. But first, just to set the mood, this was an article that popped up in my Facebook feed. In antiquity, women who had anxiety, mood swings, and depression were sent by their husbands to the doctor, who diagnosed them with a disease called hysteria. Their treatment was based on a pelvic massage with the purpose of achieving hysterical paroxysm, which is now known as orgasm. There were so many women who began to attend consultations to have their treatment for hysteria that doctors at the end of the workday were exhausted and their hands were shaky. That's why they decided to invent a useful device that produced rhythmic vibrations, and that hysterical paroxysm was achieved easier and faster in the patient without the need for the common manual massage. And this is the origin of the modern day vibrator. At that time, it was seen as a healing artifact. Even the wealthiest women had them in their homes for when they thought bouts of hysteria. So nowadays, women have come a long way. We no longer need to be hysterical in order to have an orgasm. And hysteria relates to humor and not a state of mind, although sometimes people can get hysterical. So with that as a lead-in, welcome to Lauren Goyette, who is a sex coach. So Lauren, what does a sex coach do? And how did you get into this business?
Thank you so much for having me, Nancy. I actually became a sex coach after I have been selling romance enhancement products, hysteria devices, if you will.
That's hysterical.
It is, isn't it funny? Since 2013, I have been in the industry of normalizing sex toys and better conversations around sex. So I noticed a lot of relationships, regardless of gender and sexual, whatever's going on, people have a hard time talking about it. It could definitely be that shame. So as a sex coach, I ended up starting to have private consultations to get a little bit farther into how far is the shame down and how much does that actually affect you being able to talk about sex, what you need more from sex, how to have better orgasms, and how to explore safely.
Interesting. So did you have a career prior to selling hysteria devices?
I actually did not. I had no career in sex or anything. It was,
And were you in school before that, or?
I did. I graduated high school. I actually was a CNA.
Okay. Yeah, I knew that you must have, to go straight from college or high school to selling sex toys. I'm sure people do it, but I was just curious as to whether you had worked in the business world before you were. I mean, sex is huge business, but was just curious.
No, it just came out of nowhere and it was the best decision I ever made. I'm such more sexually confident in my own skin, and it's really my power to really help educate people about sex and really make it not so taboo. Everybody needs a fun hysteria device. Yes.
And what are you finding in your practice? What some of the main issues are today, other than just the whole taboo factor and the shame factor? Is there anything that you've seen? How long have you been doing this?
I have been doing this for 3.5 years. I have my own business called LNG Coaching. It's a sex, love, and relationship coach. That's my title. The biggest things I see is mismatched libido. One will have a higher libido, a higher sex drive, and another will be a little bit lower. I see a lot of menopausal difficulties that come up around being able to have sex and difficulty orgasming, as well as erectile difficulties and penis owners. And honestly, all of these things they're really attached to how we feel, talking about it. Nothing's going to get resolved if we can't talk about it. So, really, just making it a normal conversation, like we're talking about, what's for dinner. It makes it a lot easier and comfortable to navigate the challenges that a lot of couples go through regarding sexual difficulties.
And when you said, it's funny, you said penis owners. We are having a guest on this month who's a urologist. He's been a guest before, who is going to talk about all things penis. So that doesn't mean we can't touch on penises in this conversation, but vaginas are always a big focus. Although, again, we're living in a very fluid environment, so it doesn't really matter what orifice we're talking about when we talk about sex. And you and I had this conversation when I was prepping you for the podcast, Lauren. I grew up with a father who was a gynecologist. So I had a very, very warped sense of what was appropriate dinner table conversation. So that was my dad who, looked at vaginas all day long for a living. And my mother had been raised in an Orthodox Jewish home. And she loved talking about sex, but there were a lot of taboos and a lot of shame, I think, and a lot of weirdness. So that was an interesting environment to grow up in, where I had one very sex open parent and one who, kind of thought it was naughty and compartmentalized a lot. So it was interesting. And do you find that today's generations are more open or less open or more confused? I know you see clients of a variety of ages and stages, but do you see that there's a difference at all?
There really is not a difference. And the biggest stem is miseducation about our bodies, how to achieve pleasure, and also how to relax to be able to receive pleasure in a very fast paced world. We don't usually slow down to enjoy the things and be ready enough for the things, no matter what age.
And you mentioned menopause. I was talking to somebody recently who said that, he finds with the advantage of dating at my age is that we don't have to worry about fear of pregnancy or having your period during sex. But because of menopause, unless you are taking hormone replacement, it can be painful. You could dry up. And a lot of women are just kind of done with sex for whatever reason. And so this man was saying that a lot of women will lead with their sexuality at the beginning of the dating process, but then they'll end up having an eternal headache and will, not really enjoy it all that much. So I think that's an issue that we're going to face more and more as women live longer lives. And there'll be those of us who want to remain sexually active and curious, and those who just are kind of done with it all.
That's a very big theme I see from somebody who has, in menopause. With that pain, we're not going to want something that doesn't feel good. I hear a lot from those who have experienced menopause, the pain, the dryness, it's different now. The inside of the vaginal lining is thinner. It's a different type of tissue. It needs different types of lube, different type of foreplay is required. And as the body changes, some of our erogenous zones can actually change inside, change locations, such as the G spot. And so we have to kind of re-explore our body in like this version 2.0. The next phase of your life, your body's a little bit different. Your receptors are different. And I hope you don't give up on sexuality because it's uncomfortable, as well as a conversation around how to make it comfortable again. I really hope that you find someone you can talk to about that because sex can be really great. It's just very different and it's a good different.
What about young people who choose not to have sex?
So those who choose not to have sex, they are more focused on the emotional connection rather than the sexual connection. So the desire isn't there. The sexual desire or the intrigue, it's not there. That's not how they feel most connected to people.
Yeah, so intimacy, has lots and lots of meanings, and it's not just about penis and vagina or penis and anus or penis and mouth. That could be cuddling and could be kissing, it could be stroking. So, yeah, I think that intimacy has different meanings for lots of different people. Now let's jump into our Toys R Us section of the discussion. You said you started out selling sex toys. What's so interesting is mainstream stores like Target even are selling sex toys. So if you have no interest in going into an adult toy store, you have options for experimenting with sex toys while you're picking up your laundry detergent and your toilet paper, which I thought was interesting. A girlfriend of mine told me about that they now sell, it used to just be like condoms and pregnancy tests in the sexual health aisle. And now Target has a range of other products, which means it obviously has become mainstream. So talk to us a little bit about toys. Like if our audience was a group that had no experience whatsoever with sex toys and you were giving them the 101, what would you say?
First off, I would ask, has anybody ever owned a sex toy? And usually it'll be a yes or a and then, are you interested in to learn, what sex toys could do for your body and enhancing your pleasure? And you get a lot of resounding yeses on that. I would then explain the different types of toys. All right. So we'll have an external toy that will focus on the nipples. With each nipple, no matter, regardless of gender, have 800 nerve endings. So,
Wow.
yeah, I know, right? So then I talk about the external for the clitoris, external items for the clitoris to be used by yourself or with a partner. And there's a lot of small, petite ones that can go ahead and fit in between you and a partner. And really focus in on the fact that 80% of clitoris owners require direct clitoral stimulation to achieve orgasm during P and V penetration. And a lot of people don't know about that. And the clitoris actually has 10,000 nerve endings. It's not really there for any purpose except pleasure. So tickle the skittle, DJ clit, do what you need to do. Really is going to enhance everything. So we talk about the external vibes and I will pass around a few. When you have these parties, you're able to touch them. In the store, you're not really able to open it up, right? And touch what the material feels like, what the vibration feels like in your hand, and if it's comfortable on your fingertips, to hold. So we have quite a few different ones. We'll go through external first, and then I talk about the benefits of an internal item, which would be for the G spot area, which is a cluster of nerves about 1 to 3 inches up on the inside of the vagina, the front wall. You'll usually find an item, a toy on the shaft that has a curved and bulbous tip. A lot of the times with that area, when you are turned on, it actually will enlarge. It's actually called the urethral sponge, and it's a cluster of nerves. So when it actually enlarges, you're going to want to put pressure on that. So you can do the come hither with the fingers. You curve your fingers up and put pressure on it, or you grab an item, a toy that already has that curve in there, designed to put pressure on that G spot area.
And for those of you who are watching the video, you'll see Lauren just did a little show and tell with one of those devices. So if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, you might want to switch over to YouTube at some point so you could see the show and tell as she goes through the options. Oh, and are your groups co-ed or do they tend to be mostly female? Is it a mix?
It's a mix. A lot of the times it is females first. They get comfortable with the idea of it. They've never been to a party like this before. And then they'll have a co-ed party. And we go into everything, masturbation sleeves, all the different nerve endings on the penis, which is 4 to 5,000, a little bit of everything, masturbation sleeves, lubes, also other types of enhancement products for comfort, such as elevation pillows. When you're changing the position, you're able to feel new sensations and make it more comfortable for your body, your hips. Also, we have sex swings, so then you can have sex standing up with no weight. It's really great for the hips.
As the population ages, there are going to be all these opportunities for sex toys for older people with bad knees or bad elbows. Do you only do these parties in person or do you also do virtual parties?
Both, yep, in person and virtual. During COVID, it was fantastic time for virtual parties and business went through the roof. People were really stressed out and toys and orgasms really help with that. Bring you a little fun while you're stuck inside. So virtual as well. If anybody needs a party, I got you with your personal show and tell. I got you.
And have you ever had a party where people show up and they find out that they know somebody else in the party? Like, I think a lot of people, when they walk into a sex toy store or they RSVP to a party, now with social media, everybody knows everything. But do you ever get any of that pushback? Or have you ever had a party where people walk in and go, oh my God, that's my boss sitting across the room?
If that has happened, it's only happened a few times and it was met with, oh my gosh, yes, I'm so excited. It's a judgment-free zone. Everybody's going there for pleasure. So nothing really needs to leave the room if it doesn't want to. It's a really cool bonding experience. Like we take all the awkwardness out of something that shouldn't have any awkwardness. So it's really cool. It's a place for learning and laughing and really embracing your sexual side when usually we keep that under
Love
wraps.
that. Love that. So basically, what Lauren is saying is if you have questions and you haven't done this yet, don't be afraid because I'm sure, Lauren, you've had other newbies, people who walk in like really embarrassed, really afraid, and then just by being in that environment, their inhibitions lessen.
So much so.
Anything else you could recommend in terms of getting over your fear of sex toys or walking into a sex shop or going to a sex toy party?
When you get nervous, I want you to ask yourself, are you worried about what somebody else may think? Are you worried about possibly what your parents may think? We have all this shame that we're holding on to, but isn't really ours. And is it, are you just nervous because it's new? And I want you to just naturalize it to yourself before you go in there. You aren't pressured to buy anything. It's just learning about something new that could be beneficial to you, and you don't know until you know. So please have no fear around these items. It's something new, and it's okay.
Yeah, and your statistics about nerve endings is really fascinating. Like you wouldn't let somebody come over to you and stick their finger in your ear if it didn't feel good or poke you in the eye. So why should you allow somebody to do something to that part of your body that doesn't feel good? And not, I don't want to be sexist at all, but I think women sometimes hesitate to tell men what makes them feel good. And some men can get very defensive because they think they've been doing it right all along. But what they don't realize is that every woman is different. It's not plug and play, literally,
Literally, yes.
or clitorally, as the case may be. Couldn't resist that pun.
Literally.
Yes.
I love it. I've noticed a lot of people they can feel defensive when they're being told that actually doesn't feel good. Can you try this? And the communication part is huge. It can be something like, for example, something you could say to your partner if you want to introduce a toy into the bedroom. You start off positively. I love what we do in the bedroom. It always feels so good. I've wanted to explore with new sensations for more pleasure for both of us. So you state the intention and then you invite. Would you be open to going to a sex toy store with me or shopping online for sex toys just for maybe one small item to bring in and see how that enhances things for us?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of it is really just about the communication.
It's a big part of it. And also, we don't know what we don't learn in school. Sex education is not great. So pleasure education is a whole different ordeal, which is my biggest focus. I All these nerve endings, we would hope that would be common knowledge, and it's not necessarily. So all this education can just help make things so much more better when you know more about your body. And it's okay to not know right now. That's all right.
That was a great script that you just shared of how to introduce the topic of conversation. Is there a place where people can actually find that script?
They can reach out to me. I'm on all the socials. If you need any help, you just message me script. I will send you right back exactly what it is. You tailor it. I don't ask any other questions past that unless you want me to. Communication is tricky. So when you have a script, it can sure as heck be helpful. You can email me at coachlaurengoyette@yahoo.com and I got your back.
That's great. I mean, we don't hesitate these days to hire life coaches or business coaches or SAT coaches. But the whole notion of hiring a sex coach, I think it should kind of be mandatory before somebody gets married. The same way you have to, if you're Catholic, you have to sit down with a priest and talk about differences in handling of money and philosophies. But it should be like getting your driver's license before you enter a relationship. You have to attend mandatory one sex coach session. It's like a Tupperware party, but not.
Yeah, exactly. It is a Tupperware party for your genitals. And my mother actually told me, my mom is one of my biggest supporters. It took them a little while, no big deal, right? But they now have a sex swing down in their basement. They get cock rings for Christmas. And my mom suggested that I go to a sex coach, not me, before I get married, which is I'm getting married up in October. So
Congratulations.
thank you. And it is. It's normalizing things. Like if I'm trying to lose weight, I can try to do it on my own, but also I could hire a health coach, right? So if you're trying to have better sex, you can try to do it on your own, or you have a mentor. And that's it. You just got somebody who holds you accountable but teaches you things.
Awesome. So thank you, Lauren. This has been fabulous. Throughout the month of February, we're going to be tackling all kinds of topics, some sexual, some related to other kinds of relationships. As I said, love, hate, lust, self love. But I figured this was a really juicy one to kick things off with. And so, Lauren, you've been terrific. Thank you so much. To listen to other episodes of Age Blind, you could find us on Spotify, on Apple, wherever you happen to get your podcasts. We also have a YouTube channel, so follow me there. And I'm not sure when you're actually going to be listening to this, but there are exciting things afoot in February when I launch my new personal brand. So if it's already happened, it's old news, but if it hasn't happened yet, stay tuned. And please follow me on Instagram. My current handle is the on switch, TheonSwitch, like a light switch, but that is going to change at some point, and you will get news of that. And thank you all for listening and watching. And thank you again, Lauren, for being such an amazing guest. And remember, no matter how old you are, sex is very much a part of life, along with love, along with other kinds of relationships. So be age blind, be smart, and peace out.
Yes.